Good morning. This is Reed Seals with AM 1340, 99.5 FM WGRV. I'm here with Senator Marsha Blackburn, and she's joined us this morning to talk about various subjects. And Marsha, first off, the first question, just tell us about this telehealth bill that you recently sponsored and why it's important.
Absolutely. I have had a rural health agenda that is something we developed by talking with our county mayors and leadership. And last August, I held a roundtable for our mayors over at the Andrew Johnson National Historic Site. And one of the things that came up was emboldening rural health care and making it more accessible. So we developed this agenda, one component of which is telehealth. And during the COVID-19 crisis and the CARES Act, we were able to get our telehealth language included. And that is what has allowed so many of our seniors, those with chronic complex medical conditions, to actually do their doctor's visit over Skype or over the iPhone, FaceTime, things of that nature, rather than going to the doctor's office. And it was not only a tremendous savings, but it was a safety issue for so many individuals. Plus, our physicians and our clinics and hospitals are reimbursed for the care that they deliver over telehealth. So that is one of those win-win situations, and we have worked on moving this forward for years, and we're pleased to see that included. Other components that we are working on, and bipartisan basis, Senator Durbin is my lead co-sponsor. We have a bill that would establish the Rural Healthcare Corps, and it would incentivize healthcare providers to provide healthcare in rural and underserved areas. And if they agree to serve for a 5-year period of time, then at the end of that 5 years, their student loans are retired tax-free. And this is to make it more attractive for nurses and NPs and PAs and physicians and psychiatrists and dentists, all to work in rural areas. The third is a component that would allow freestanding emergency rooms. We continue to work with all of our state senators, state reps, and the governor's office on this.
Okay, and kind of switching gears here, the current presidential candidates are not really doing anything to convince the other side that they are the best candidate. What do you think they can do to change that?
One of the things that any candidate should do is talk about their philosophy of life and their philosophy of government, how they see different issues, and how they stand on principles. You know, most people want to know, what are your principles? What makes you tick? What's important to you? In my case, I say there are 5 things: faith, family, freedom, hope, and opportunity. And that's what informs me. How does this preserve and expand our freedom? How does it allow us the religious liberty necessary to practice our faith? How does it encourage our families and support our family institution and structure? How does it give people hope? How does it open doors of opportunity? And by thinking through how different issues, whatever the issue of the day is, I think that voters should know what underpins how an individual makes those decisions.
Now, I see a lot of times in my email, I get a lot of press releases about different bills you're sponsoring. And are there any you'd like to talk about right now besides the telehealth bill that are coming up or that recently were passed?
We are doing quite a bit of work on the technology issues, and this is vitally important. There's a lot of censorship against conservative groups and conservative thought online. Some of our folks in Tennessee that are in the conservative entertainment industry with the movies and TV shows and music experience a good bit of censorship. And we're continuing to work on that. We know that it is so vitally important that as you have social media that serves as the modern day public square, that all voices have the opportunity to be heard, and that you don't have people out in California making a decision on what people on Tennessee are going to be able to find as they get online and do their research and their work. Another thing we're doing is holding China accountable. And, this is something that is vitally important. China has made a living out of going in here and ripping off intellectual property. Auto parts manufacturers. You all have Sumirico that is there in the county. And what you see China do is rip off technology, and that ends up costing us jobs. It creates liability issues for employers. So we are focused on bringing that production back. We're focused on bringing pharmaceutical production back. Indeed, Senator Menendez and I have a bipartisan bill. It's called the SAMC bill. And what this does is to bring our nations, it incentivizes bringing our pharmaceutical production back to the U.S. And then it gives a $100 million grant pool for colleges and universities, places like Tusculum College, that may want to team up with a pharmaceutical company and train workers for different advanced manufacturing components that would benefit that pharmaceutical manufacturing. So these are all areas where we're spending a lot of work, holding China accountable, looking at technology, making certain that people are not censored, inappropriately censored when they are online, bringing jobs back to the U.S. And it's a fairness issue for employers and for workers.
Now, speaking of China, there was a recent bill that you sponsored where, and I may be wording this wrong, but Americans can sue China over the coronavirus. And I was just wondering if you could explain that bill and just expound upon it to our listeners.
Yes, and actually, there is a hearing today in the Senate on this legislation. It is called the Stop COVID Act. And this deals with an amending to the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. Now, people will remember when we passed legislation and allowed the families that experienced loss of life and livelihood from 9/11, and they were able to sue Saudi Arabia and seek compensation for this. What we are doing now is looking at COVID-19 as a biological agent, and China, holding China responsible for the spread of COVID-19 because of things they did or things they did not do. And this would open the door for families that have lost a loved one or companies that have been driven out of business because of COVID-19. They would be able to seek that compensation from the Chinese Communist Party.
Okay, well, I want to thank Marsha Blackburn for joining us this morning. And Marsha, is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Well, I hope that your listeners will sign up for our weekly newsletter. This they can sign up for if they go to the website blackburn.senate.gov. They're also going to find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I hope they'll keep up with us. Every week we send out information about what we're doing in D.C., the work we're doing, what is happening in our state, how the issues in D.C. affect our state. So we would encourage them to get that newsletter, share it with their friends, stay in touch with us. Let us hear about what's so important to them.
That was Senator Marsha Blackburn. This is Reed Seals, and this is AM 1340 and 99.5 FM WGRV.